Rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Good evening, Aurora. Good evening, everyone. This is Monday, the 24th of April. We are here to speak about child exploitation, as we do monthly. This is this month's and this evening's topic with our partners of Kane County Law Enforcement. And our guests tonight are Mr. Robert Dore, Chief of the Criminal Division, Zeus Flores, Director of Digital Forensics, and State's Attorney Jamie Mosser.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing this evening?
Really good.
Good.
Fine, thank you.
All right. We did have a Zoom call a couple of days, so I got the chance to speak briefly with Robert and Zeus about the activities and things that we're going to talk tonight about and just learn a little bit, but this will be for the benefit of everyone listening and in Kane County. There was a press conference today. The Kane County State's Attorney and the Sheriff announced an initiative to combat child exploitation. The new Child Exploitation Unit actually began investigating cases in August of 2022 with the addition of its first specialized investigator. So, to start off with, what are the specific tasks of this unit?
So the task is to look at internet crimes against children, to first of all identify them, investigate them, and then if there is a crime, obviously we're going to arrest them and prosecute them. And the one that people most commonly know about is child pornography. Child pornography is anything where you have an image or a video of a child that is under the age of 18 years old in a way that the child is partially clothed or completely unclothed. It's essentially child abuse, what we're seeing on this. And so child pornography is rampant. We see a lot of people who are not only possessing it, but sending it out. And so the point of this unit is to be able to find those cases, have specialized people who not only know how to investigate them, who can find the information once we get people's phones and computers, and then people who prosecute them to make sure that these people are held accountable.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that there's the imagery, but then there's also the dissemination.
Yes.
So there's the spreading it out there, and both are rampant. So according to the National Children's Alliance, suspected child sexual exploitation increased 2,800% from 2012 to 2021. Now, locally in Kane County, we've been talking kind of nationally, how big of an issue have we noticed this to be? Big enough to create a unit, but let's delve into it a little bit deeper, and perhaps Robert or Zeus wants to tackle.
I don't know if you want to talk about why. So Bob is the genius behind this because this is what he wanted to do. And one of the things that he did is he actually looked up how many active cyber tips that we had. So I'm going to have him explain cyber tips and how many that we had at that time.
Cyber tips are tips from internet platform providers and even from, like, for instance, Comcast, AT&T Uverse, Verizon, and even from cyber tips come even from social media providers like Facebook, Snapchat, and other platforms that provide avenues for people to share information. What happens is these providers do not want their platforms, for the most part, to be involved in sharing images or videos that contain child exploitation material or child sex abuse material. So when the providers learn that, or based on their analysis of their platforms that it's being used for that, they send a tip to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Okay.
They work with every state's Internet Crimes Against Children's task force. So, for instance, if something happens here in Illinois, they believe that it originated in Illinois by their analysis, either through an IP address or other scientific evidence. They'll forward that to the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force. They believe it's in your state. If they can narrow it down to the region, like for instance in Kane County, they will forward it here to the respective agency in Kane County, and we created this unit to assist all of the agencies here in our county in Kane that don't have the resources to do the further investigation that's required to find out where it originated.
Right. Wow. Where it originated.
Yeah.
That's so. There's a lot to this, and you are on the forensic side, Zeus.
Correct.
Taking what Robert just told us forensically, how do you work? What is your work like? And what do you see?
So between the cyber tip and where I get involved, there's a couple of additional steps. It's going to involve a lot of investigation, and there's different ways some of this stuff comes in aside from the cyber tips. Sometimes there's walk-ins where somebody says, I found something on a phone, and et cetera, and so they come to their local police department. But also investigators can do proactive investigations where they go out and seek people who are trading on peer-to-peer networks. Similar to like the old Napster when people would trade music illegally. There are networks out there where people are trading illegal material.
Is that what's commonly known as the dark web?
No, that's actually a different network. So
Okay.
The dark web is actually a different layer underneath what we would consider the open internet, right?
Okay.
Where people can use software to try to circumvent the typical surveillance that exists on the internet.
Okay.
So there's a couple of different ways, obviously. The investigators will follow the tips, the leads that they get. They go out and get subpoenas for IP addresses to bring that back to an individual residence. And then at that point, once probable cause is established, we then enter the home with a search warrant. And then my job starts. And that's where I go in and triage the equipment that's in the home, determine where the evidence might be located, and then use forensic techniques to take that data and preserve it, collect it, and then put it into a report so that State's Attorney Mosser can go and determine what charges might be applicable.
Okay. Now, when you're doing that, what are some of what perceived barriers would a person try to erect to not have you search through devices and different kinds of things? Because, I'm assuming that an iPad, a cell phone, and a PC can all be in the house, but one may use one device more than other things. So how does law enforcement work against that? Certainly you guys are prepared for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge at times, right?
Okay.
Certain devices are a little bit more apt to be secure, right? Apple, for example, touts itself to be a secure platform.
Right.
And so they put in technological stopgaps at times that can be challenging. That doesn't mean that we can't get the data ultimately. So, because we also have tool sets that try to circumvent their countermeasures, if you will. And so each device is a little different. Certainly aside from just the security that's built into some of these hardware platforms, there's also software out there that's meant to be anti-forensic, that's meant to go out and delete the data that's on there. But it's only as good as the people who are using it, what settings they're using, et cetera. And so even with that, though, there is a lot of breadcrumbs, a lot of artifacts, we call them, information that kind of paints a story of what happened on the device that often gets us what we need.
Okay. Can we talk about the explosion of cases? And I know that certain locations, perhaps, we may want to omit cities and towns. But if we can bring it to a local level and talk about some of the enforcement going on specifically in Kane County and cities. If we can't talk about that, let's unpack that for the listeners a little bit too, because we see on the Facebook page and on the social media that there is active law enforcement going on against individuals who are possessing and distributing and disseminating. So can we talk about some of that in the vigorous, prosecutions that we see going on?
Sure. So when we first took a look at this, when we have the cyber tips, we can actually run those cyber tips to see where they're coming from. And so in Kane County, our two biggest policing organizations are Aurora and Elgin. Both Aurora and Elgin have investigators, and Aurora also has a forensic analyst similar to what Zeus does. And they are able to run these tips down. The problem that we identified is that some of the smaller communities and the smaller police departments didn't have dedicated investigators who could spend hours upon hours doing this. When this begins and it's a cyber tip, there are search warrants that go out, there are subpoenas that go out, there could be grand jury subpoenas because we're identifying information. We're getting IP addresses of the people's homes. We're finding out who lives in the home. There's a lot of legwork that goes into this, and this is hours and hours. And so we have two investigators right now at the state's attorney's office, Investigator Drew Euler and Kevin Reynolds, who are the ones who are doing all of that front end work. I believe in our statistics, in terms of all of the subpoenas that they have done since August of 2022, they have investigated 187 cyber tips. Out of all of that, they did 91 search warrants. And that those search warrants don't mean search warrants necessarily in the home. It's obtaining other information like the IP addresses for the home, as I mentioned earlier. Right. They've served 16 residential search warrants, and from that we arrested 9 adult offenders who were doing this. I mean, we have already probably doubled, if not tripled, the numbers of cases that we've charged from the years past because we didn't have the amount of cases investigated that we do now. So our focus primarily is helping those police agencies that may not have the resources to track these down and frankly may not have the expertise to track these down. So we're working with them. We've done a lot in the Tri-Cities so far. We've done a couple in Carpentersville, and the numbers just keep growing.
Now this next question, I'd like for Robert and Zeus to kind of add to from both of their experiences, but is there a typical profile of an offender, and has law enforcement noticed any patterns or behaviors that may be warning signs or red flags?
So I'll speak without any scientific basis. I'll just observationally, over the hundreds of search warrants that I've participated in, it runs the gamut. We've got an unfortunate run of juveniles that do this, all the way up to elderly. Majority male, but we've had some females as well. And in terms of professions, we've seen it all, and including bus drivers and school teachers and clergy and police officers. Mm-hmm. So they're very good at hiding, and so there's nothing on their face that says this is what they're into. Right. So I've seen a mix.
Some very enterprising juveniles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very enterprising. From having a scheme for a price range for the type of acts that he would share, to a PayPal scheme, all the way up to someone in their mid-70s.
Wow. And
everything in between. There isn't a prototypical person that you look at and go, that's the person.
Right.
So no, it's, as Zeus said, it's a wide range, but I would also say that most of my defendants have been, or the ones that have been male. Have been a few females. He probably run into more females than I have because his focus, Zeus's focus, was he was working statewide for quite a while, and so my experience was within the confines of county jurisdictions. So but I would say it's a wide range.
The time is 6:14 p.m. Thank you everyone for watching our discussion tonight with Kane County State's Attorney Jamie Mosser, Mr. Robert Dore, Chief of the Criminal Division, and Zeus Flores, Director of Digital Forensics. Let's talk about victims for a moment and the impact on their lives. And the specific question is, are there services within Kane County or any of the partner networks that assist children or young victims?
Absolutely. So we have a very robust advocacy for children, not only children who we've identified who live here, who have been sexually abused or assaulted or even had these photographs taken of them. We can refer them to services. We have contracts where we can even assist with the payment for services. We help them through the criminal justice system. We have trauma-informed advocates to make sure that there's somebody here who understands and is able to talk to them through these services. The tough part with some of these cases, though, is these could be victims that have been victims for a long time. I remember speaking with Bob one day when he was reviewing a case, and just from the caption of what the photo is, he knew what the photo was because it was a widely distributed child pornography depiction. And it was probably made years and years and years ago. Now, that's not to say it's not being made now. We are seeing that. We're seeing that people in our community are making child pornography or doing something called sextortion, where essentially they get a photo of a child or they do something, they contact them through social media, and they start to force or pressure them into taking photographs and videos of themselves and sending it to them. And as a result of all of that, then we continue to see more and more abusive images that are put out there. If we identify a victim that's here, we will absolutely provide them as many services as possible.
I want to actually, before I read, there are some stats that I'm going to read momentarily. But if Robert and Zeus, I don't want to move way too quick. If you guys wanted to speak to the impact of victims in your experiences real quick, briefly, before we move on.
It's devastating, right? I know Bob and I, in several cases that we've worked with, unfortunately, as Jamie mentioned, we recognize the same victims over and over and over again. And I know, and I won't name names of people who have come forward, but there have been victims that have come forward and advocated, to help fight this crime. And unfortunately, when they've gone public, they end up attracting more predators who are trying to actually reach out to them and kind of look up to them as victims in some sort of strange way. And what ends up happening is that causes more victimization. And every time an image gets shared, it just causes more of an emotional impact. And so, one particular victim had mentioned how she can't go out in public because she was wondering who's actually seen her. All right, and so it creates sort of an ever-present anxiety, right? And then at some point, the federal law required that notification be made to the victim anytime a case was adjudicated that it involved that particular victim. And at first, it started with a few letters, and after a while, it became bags of mail. And so that sort of quantified how much that person was being distributed across the internet.
Wow.
So it has an enormous impact. And I also want to mention victims that aren't necessarily involved in the child exploitation itself, but family members of those who are arrested had nothing to do with this. They didn't ask for it, and they unfortunately have to also suffer the ramifications of one of their own being arrested.
Right, because now it's dad or it's uncle,
Absolutely.
and these people have a name and a face too.
Absolutely.
The time is 6:18, so I wanted to read a little bit from today's joint statement, and then we'll continue to move on. So the 30 million reports in 2021 translate to more than 563,000 reports per week. According to the most recent data available from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, there were nearly 30 million reports of online child sexual exploitation in 2021 in the United States. These reports involved 39.9 million images, of which 16.9 million were unique, and 44.8 million videos, of which 5.1 million were unique. Wow. Since August 2022, the Kane County Child Exploitation Unit has investigated 187 MEC tips, and that's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Created 55 criminal case investigations, served 91 search warrants. These are the facts and that you guys detailed as well. So with social media and the internet exploding and becoming more, becoming stronger and more ways to do things and more files to download from all these different places you could download and rip files from and all that kind of stuff. But with at the same time people being able to be identified, are the offenders in a way kind of helping law enforcement because they're proliferating and having a presence online and they are able to be found on these platforms, things like that?
Could you rephrase the question? I missed a little bit of it there.
Is their presence on social media and what they're doing driving their being caught?
I wouldn't say necessarily. I think it's just a matter of these electronic service providers that are doing the due diligence of the data that's flowing through their networks in order to catch them.
Okay.
Right. As far as the peer-to-peer networks, I think they have a sense of anonymity, but it's a false sense. If they're using an IP address, essentially they're out there. And all this traffic occurs all day long, all across the state, all across the country. And unfortunately, there's just not enough resources to go and get everybody. So no, I think it's always been there. They're there to catch. It's just a matter of having the right resources to go do it.
And if every police department, even smaller ones, aren't able to have a unit that's dedicated to this activity, what's it like training or working with law enforcement to kind of develop that and plant that seed within these, because downstate, close to, Missouri, was smaller police departments and communities, but the problem is certainly there too. So what's it like working with those organizations?
I think that's a big component of the ICAC task force, right? Because you need training, equipment, and resources, right? And so when it comes to the training aspect, I know the ICAC task force works with a lot of the affiliate agencies to set up different kinds of training. And there are also nonprofit organizations like the National White Collar Crime Center and other organizations where free training is available for law enforcement because it is so specialized.
Wow.
And then, within the state, we certainly rely on one another. The affiliate networks are very close-knit. And at least in terms of the forensics, we share quite a bit. If something stumps us, we call another affiliate agency and we work together to solve the problem.
At what point does interaction or communication turn into exploitation? Is it the demand for explicit favors or using one's images and content against them? I think, Robert, you touched on that just a little bit with this, you had a term, sextortion.
Well, what happens is, and I've talked to other investigators about this too, you'll get people who will portray themselves as within a certain age group. They will join either chats. They will get into, I didn't realize until about 5 or 6 years ago that the app Musical.ly had a chat application with it. So where teenagers could share music that they created, or they would lip sync to a song and they would send it out. Predators will surf that, and they will portray themselves as a 13-year-old, as a 14-year-old, and they will befriend these people in these chat applications, and then get friendly enough. And many of these predators have stock images of whatever age group they're purporting themselves to be, and they will share images of themselves under this moniker, and ask that person to reciprocate. And once they do, they befriend them, and then they will slowly groom and try to get more risque photos. And once they get what they want, then the extortion starts. Give me a few more, go into the bathroom and do whatever, take pictures of yourself, or else I'm going to send what you've sent me already to everybody on your friends list, your parents, your chums at school, And more often than not, unfortunately, these children acquiesce because they don't want to let mom, they don't want to let dad, they don't want anybody to know that they've done this. It takes a brave kid to say no, or else they're going to call the police or tell their parents.
Right.
So that's what happens for this sextortion or this coercion.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Oh, I was just going to say, kids have enough to worry about these days, let alone something that difficult to deal with, right? And so it's very devastating to the self-esteem, and unfortunately, some children end up suicidal as a result.
Yeah, that has been noted in many places. The coaches and the people who make a bond with the young person at that age, when a young person's self-esteem and everything is so fragile. But Barbara, you're talking about the portrayal too, because I don't know if people are understanding that, like grown individuals who are for their time on the internet, Eric, who's 13, taking on a whole new persona just to engage with young people, young underage people.
Our investigations have revealed some of these predators are in their mid-40s, 50s, pretending to be 13, 14-year-old girls.
That is that's really sad and scary to think about.
I'm sorry, Jamie.
You're fine. It comes in so many different places too, even gaming systems. So kids could be playing Roblox, which should be it's not a very sophisticated game. It's like Legos through all of this.
My son plays it, yeah.
Yes, all three of my children have at some point or another played it, but there's a chat function through that in which people can start to do that too. And then they may lead them somewhere else. So it's even as pervasive as when our children should just be relaxing and letting go and creating worlds in Roblox, that a predator tries to go in and lure them into doing something.
So, and I'm just from personal experience right now, Steam. I'm thinking of Steam, which is another, it's a platform with which you could play games and online and interact. As a parent, I have been confident in the base level of security that was required to make the account. Mm-hmm. But I do worry, though, because of the fraud and the crime and how these people act. It's so pervasive that they are consistently making conveniently quirky new ways to bypass these systems. Mm-hmm. Even with Disney Plus, even with Disney Plus too. That's another thing I'm worried about. I just wanted to kind of point that out for the listeners who have children and use these things, the extra layer of security that we go through as parents. It may not always be sufficient.
I think when it comes to all of the social media platforms, right, there are certainly some that are worse than others. But you have to assume if a child is online engaging in some sort of social application, that there are predators lurking that are trying to find ways. So absolutely.
So the answer is people need to talk to their kids. I talk to my kids probably way more openly than anybody else does, but that's because I have to prosecute these cases. And so part of what I want my kids to understand is that if something's happening, they have to come to me because we can shut it down. And I know we can shut it down because we've created a team that can shut it down. And I talk to them about cases that happen here in Kane County. People that I know my kids and are friends with my kids, but my kids don't know. We had a case where it started where the kid, was showing his armpit essentially. And then this predator got them to show more. And it started with something that shouldn't have caused the kid to feel like he had to do that, but it was so much pressure. I'm going to do this. And kids are worried about what anybody thinks about them. And understanding how cruel some kids can be at school, it terrified him so much that he gave more and more until a parent finally found out about it. So talk to your kids about this. I mean, people have to have these conversations so that your children feels comfortable enough coming to you, and then they have to go to law enforcement. That's the next important key.
Going to law enforcement?
Yes, because then we can start the investigation. We can find the person who's doing it. We can maybe help shut it down so that these images don't go any further than what they had already gone.
And unfortunately, with the sextortion cases, what I've been seeing is some of these individuals are beginning to network, and they're tag teaming the victimization on a victim. They will share details, they'll look up details of the child and share that with others, and they take turns trying to sextort that particular victim. So it gets pretty bad.
Can I use your phone for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
Curtis,
Yes.
when we were growing up, and this is gonna date me, we used to have the warnings about Mr. Stranger Danger, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Well, this is the problem. This brings Mr. Stranger Danger inside the threshold of your house.
Right.
He's not out on the street. He or she is inside your home in these.
Right.
So parents have to have some type of parental controls. If they're going to allow their children to have these applications and utilize these social media sites, do it safely with parental controls so that a parent can monitor the activity.
Right.
Because if you can't, you have no idea who they're chatting with.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem.
Right.
And sometimes it's not just a 40, 50-year-old guy. Sometimes it's a boyfriend who's trying to get a nude pic of the girlfriend. And before you know it, it's being spread across multiple kids at the high school. So it's about parent engagement, teaching them how to handle themselves safely on the internet. Because once it's out there, you can't
Get it back.
Right. Now, two things to that point. The time is 6:30. Jameson Eisenmenger says it's true. Our kids love when mom comes home from prosecutor trainings.
So that is my husband, and it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday, Jameson.
Happy birthday.
But the last training that I went to on this, I learned a little thing about Snapchat. So you can go into Snapchat, and there's actually a portion of it that says "for your eyes only." I had never seen this at all. And so the trainer was telling us all about it and, check into that. So, of course, I go home, I check my daughter's phone. It's not activated. Good. I check my son's phone, activated it. I'm like, what is it? It was a very loud yell at that point. And, when I looked in it, it was workout things that he was doing for himself. But I'm like, you're going to delete that right now because nothing is for your eyes only.
Right.
And so, but it's little tips like that as parents, we don't know. I had never heard of Steam until right now when you told this to me.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many things out there that we're not keeping up with because we're not on our phones all day.
Yeah. I was fortunate. I'm a part of AmeriCorps. I was fortunate in 2018 to go to a hiring event at, I believe, University of Chicago. There was an agent from the DEA who was the speaker. He had been part of a task force in Chicago. And he was talking about how drug dealers and gang members are using Telegram and these other apps for their encryption potential to move fentanyl and other things. And he was talking about how they are trying to circumvent, was the word of the day, and it was fascinating. And the CIA was there too. It was really cool. And that's when I actually start paying more attention to it, because Minecraft and these other games that these young kids are playing started exploding. My son loves it. But I was noticing when anything he downloads in the cloud pops up on your other devices.
Right.
So now there's all these, Lion Run, all these games, and I'm like, wait a minute. Let's slow down. And I started talking to him about you can't just be hitting download on every little thing, and I started looking into it myself. So, just trying to familiarize myself with it. Because it is scary. It is scary for any parents out there. So Sheriff Hayne was to be with us this evening, but we're going to I do want to read his statement real quick from today's joint statement. The time is 6:33 p.m. I worked for nearly 4 years to promote these types of investigations. However, because of manpower issues and other priorities, these extremely important investigations received divided attention over that time. Thanks to the great partnership the Sheriff's Office has made with State's Attorney Mosser, we have been able to establish a joint task force to fully implement this initiative. We now house an SAO, State's Attorney's Office investigator, at the Sheriff's Office, and the two current SAO investigators are fully supported and assisted by Sheriff's detectives. This model has proved effective in eradicating our community of these most egregious offenders. Working with Sheriff Hayne on this, and the people who, because they're who are executing search warrants, correct?
Our investigators and the investigators
Okay.
at the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Sheriff's not here, so we can't see him in person right now, ladies and gentlemen. But we love Sheriff Hayne. He's a great man. What's it like working with the sheriff and having this combined team?
To me, it's been great. I mean, what he isn't expressing in there is for the first 4 years of his term, this is a project he wanted to undertake where he wanted to go after the people who are exploiting our children. But the problem is he experienced the same thing everybody else did, which was manpower. To investigate one of these, you're dedicating days just to get to the point where you're getting to the search warrant of the home to get in there. And with all the other crime that the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office, he always yells at me because I say department instead of office, they just didn't have the resources of the manpower. So this is when we discussed it together. I went to the county board and I petitioned them to add money to my budget so that I could have dedicated people to this topic. And so we were able to get our first investigator in August, and he has been running these down essentially for the state's attorney's office by himself, but with the investigators at the sheriff's office. And that's how we've gotten to where we were. When we saw the need, and frankly that we were going to lose this fantastic investigator because there was no way he could keep up with it, we got our second investigator, again funded through the Kane County Board. Now in the meantime, we had been hoping that Zeus would come join us because he is by far and away an expert in all of this. And so we were very lucky to count him as a part of our team. We were able to get dedicated prosecutors for this as well. Bob comes with the experience of having prosecuted these for almost 2 decades. So it's been a fantastic partnership where we thought outside of the box because he wasn't going to be able to take people away from the crime investigation. I did have the ability to bring people in-house just to focus on all of this, and so now here we are.
It's a dream team.
It is a dream team.
Yeah, you guys work well together.
We
Just
do.
on the outside looking in and just seeing. I know how you work with individuals, and after meeting you two guys and seeing your passion,
I've had the
very
pleasure of
effective.
working with Bob Dore for about, 10 years. And I've worked with Andrew Euler and Kevin Reynolds also for many years as part of the ICAC task force. So we work very well together.
How can we help you? How can the community and the people of Kane County help and assist the efforts of the team and the unit?
So one of the things is if you see something, tell law enforcement about it. We get a lot of cyber tips, but we also do get tips from people who may see it on somebody's phone or somebody's computer. When you see that and you suspect it to be, report it to law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't have to release who you are, but they're going to utilize the information to try to find out if this person is doing it, and that's the best way to stop what's happening. The other part is supporting initiatives like this. The 2 investigators and Zeus would not be here, but for the support from the Kane County Board, giving us additional money in our budget to be able to hire these highly trained individuals. Because you can't just give this investigation to somebody new, brand new off the streets, no experience. The amount of experience and training that they have gets us these investigations and these prosecutions. So talking to the Kane County Board, supporting when they're being supportive of us for our law enforcement initiatives is one of the best ways to go. That took a lot for the board to be able to give me the funding to do what they do, and they did it unanimously, and I'm incredibly proud and grateful for all of that. Making sure our community tells the Kane County Board that they're supportive of that also so that we can protect our kids is the best thing we could do.
With the rise in the cases and the prosecutions, how have the penalties changed or stiffened or been enhanced?
Turn that one over to you.
The wonderful thing about what's happened in the there's nothing wonderful about child pornography or child exploitation, but the one thing that has changed is that there's a statute of limitations on many crimes. Fortunately for us on child pornography and child exploitation, especially with the victims being younger, our legislature has eliminated the statute of limitations on child pornography. So there really isn't a staleness issue with our cases, and that's based on training experience and the experience of the investigators who presented it to the legislators and said this: the predators cache, they keep this stuff. It's not fungible. It doesn't rot away. That's why those videos of those little girls who are 11 years old, who are still generating through the World Wide Web, they're still out there and they don't go away. So there shouldn't be a statute of limitations for prosecuting those, or for sharing or disseminating or reproducing those offenses. So that's one thing that the legislature has done, and it's a great tool for prosecutors to use in the prosecution of these cases too, and it assists the investigators, because otherwise, if they're thinking they have to work against getting an investigation through because of a statute of limitations, puts a lot of pressure on them. But if in working a case they find it, they can continue to refine it and not have to worry about a statute of limitations. The penalties for disseminating an image or a video of children is a Class X felony. It's non-probationable. It requires a sentence in the Illinois Department of Corrections, and it requires that person be a registered sex offender for the rest of their life.
And this may sound like the question of a true novice, but what's the possibility of shutting down and destroying the networks themselves? The whatever.coms. Is that possible, and the people involved in that, and
So when we're talking about peer-to-peer networks, unfortunately, those are decentralized. There's no one server that's sitting out there that has the child porn that you can just cut the head off and it all goes away. It is decentralized across the world, and so everybody's trading little pieces of the files and recompiling them. So unfortunately, on those networks, there's no way to shut them down. All you can do is go and find the individuals that are participating in it.
Okay.
There are other issues with servers that do exist, like what I talked about, that are more centralized. Unfortunately, they are also like on the dark web. And so they may be in other jurisdictions, and their IP address may be hidden. And so it's difficult to track those down. So the problem, unfortunately, is not going away.
Right.
Well, we could get rid of the internet. I'm on board.
Well, some days I'm on board too. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes you just wake up and you're like, why is this even happening out here? We did talk in our previous conversation though about, and I think the unfortunate incident at the Pulse nightclub was what we were talking about specifically when going in or when requesting to search a phone. And that pushback, when that pushback comes, I believe that pushback should not exist in such a situation. Now, we were talking about a shooting as opposed to exploitation, but is there any hope for a removal of that pushback, or is that above all of our heads when it comes to allowing access to a phone or a device without issue?
I know the topic a couple of years ago, it was a hot topic because of the San Bernardino incident in California with the terrorist attack, and whether or not the government should have some sort of backdoor into, say, an Apple product.
That's the term too. I think that's the term that they use.
And so, backdoors are very controversial, right? A lot of people feel that there's a slippery slope, that what you give a backdoor, then anybody can find a way to exploit that. And there may be truth to that from a technological perspective. You may be able to exploit that backdoor. So it's a tug of war between privacy and the ability to get in, right? Fortunately, a lot of the perpetrators that we track down are actually using platforms that aren't nearly as anonymous as they believe they are, or they make mistakes. And ultimately, it comes back to an IP address, and that's what we chase down. So, and even those that are more sophisticated, that use encryption platforms and applications like Telegram that use end-to-end encryption, we still catch them. There are ways to do that. So it's a bit of a cat and mouse at times. An update will come out on a software program and all of a sudden we're behind. But then you have research and development that goes on in the background and we're able to catch on later on.
Right.
So, I guess the message is, you're not as safe as you think you are when you're doing this stuff.
And there is case law that I think is going to start supporting more of what we're doing. So there was a case that happened where the court ordered the individual to give their passcode to get into their phone. Now, the state was not allowed to use that information that the person gave that information to show that the phone was theirs or they had access or whatever it was. But to me, that judge absolutely supported what we wanted to do, which was to see and to get the evidence via a search warrant, not have to put this on a system like Gray Key, which could take hundreds of hours to even break into, if we can break into it. And frankly, that's the aggressive way that we're going to go in terms of prosecutions, because if there is something we want to get into and we can't, we're going to be filing those motions and following that cases and see how that case goes up to from the appellate court to the Illinois Supreme Court.
Interesting stuff when you talk to a state's attorney, ladies and gentlemen. Interesting stuff. I'm thinking of that song just playing in my head, Bad Boys, Bad Boys. What's she gonna do? So I want to read a little bit more from the joint statement. The time is 6:46 p.m. Okay, I want to read about the team a little bit. So the first investigator hired was Drew Euler. Extensive experience in investigating internet crimes for 17 years at the Wheaton Police Department. The office next added investigator Kevin Reynolds, who gained his experience in investigating internet crimes during his 10 years with the Ottawa, Illinois Police Department. And most recently added computer forensics expert Zeus, who is here with us tonight, worked in computer forensics, in the last 12 years at the Illinois Attorney General's office. The funding for this was approved by the Kane County Board. Additionally, St. Charles Police Chief James Keegan agreed to allow the unit to use his department's cyber lab for these investigations.
And it is
Sounds
an
cool.
impressive cyber lab, so Zeus is...
Yes, it's a beautiful facility, and I couldn't be thankful. They've been nothing but hospitable, and they're providing everything that we need. We're going to be adding equipment, and it's sophisticated and very geeky.
Very geeky.
Very geeky.
Oh, Zeus, we have a very geeky camera. We have a JVC 850. We have the bells and whistles news camera. What are the chances of us coming out and doing some on-scene recording, showing us what we could possibly be shown?
Sure, absolutely.
That would be awesome. We would appreciate that.
No problem.
Because we, on the show, we do like to show people what the teams and people are doing in the county who do these great work. We like to show them something a little bit new. So if we could come out and see something,
We'll
man,
work
that'd be
that out.
awesome. All right, I appreciate that.
You
All right,
could break right into your phone, Curtis.
I know he could.
Actually,
I know he could.
Already did. Sorry.
Jedi mind trick. Like, those are the drones I'm looking for.
Did he DoorDash something already?
You guys,
Food's on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, I watch some of the crime shows and stuff like that, and you see what these people are doing. They get so used to their routine or who they've been victimizing. Domestic violence, stalking, using images from our past romance against the victim,
Yes.
bringing it up over and over. I'm going to show your new husband, all of that kind of stuff. What these people are doing, it's really sad. It's really sad.
Well, they've codified that. It's they call it the revenge porn statute, but it's the non-consensual dissemination of private sexual images. So there's an actual statute in the Illinois criminal code for that.
Right.
We've prosecuted many of those cases.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, the great thing is that it's more than just child pornography. This is an expertise in people who understand how to track down technology, how to track down these tips, how to break into what we need to get to, how to get the actual evidence. We are taking the Kane County State's Attorney's Office and Sheriff's Office to a whole new level in investigations, and I'm very excited to be a part of this.
That's awesome. And so one of the questions that we've asked you repeatedly, State Attorney Monster, is the overall vision for Kane County, what we want to achieve, and what our future is. So with the work of this unit and the other units that we've put together, how do you see Kane County and law enforcement in the next 5-10 years, and what should the residents expect?
So I think we have a great two-pronged path, essentially, what we want to do. And we've talked about this a lot on the show. There are so many people who come to us who commit crimes because of mental health, substance use, lack of resources, just plain stupidity. I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons why. My focus on those individuals is what can we do? How can we help you to get you out of the system? And that always starts with the why. Why did this occur? From the why, then we could see what help do you need so that you're not doing this. And so that's how we've created programs like our collaborative diversion. We've expanded our deferred prosecution. All of the teams that I have prosecuting cases here look to see, is this person a danger or is this somebody we can help? And so that's a path we're going to continue to go down. And with the sheriff and his programming within the jail, we're well equipped to do so. But, and there's this very important but here, there are some people who are so dangerous to our community and so dangerous to the vulnerable people in our community that there's no help for them. This Child Exploitation Unit is looking for those individuals, because those are the individuals who are sharing this information, also creating it. We've found people who are actually recording people within their own homes, family members, and then they share it with other people. And as Zeus very eloquently said this earlier, you can never get these back. And now these individuals know that this is out there. And they could be in a restaurant and somebody could be looking at them, and then suddenly they're thinking, have they seen this photo? Have they seen this video of me? There's no excuse for the choices that those individuals are making to harm people and continue to harm and continue to harm. So the goal of this unit is not to put them in any type of the programming that we have, but the goal of this unit is to hold them accountable, send them to prison so that our children are safe.
All right. I think this is also a good time to mention that Kane County has the bullying and young people initiative for what's the acronym? It's escaping me at the moment. It's like WWW something. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
It's to let young people know about the dangers of online predation.
Okay.
I think it was hosted by Mr. Cunningham at the Kane County level.
Possibly the chief judge. They have a Dangers of the World Wide Web.
Clint Hull.
Yes.
That's right, Clint Hull.
Yes.
See, I knew we'd get there.
We're always there.
Clint Hull. That's right, the dangers of the web.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's
That's
a great,
beneficial.
they go to schools, and obviously this is of no charge to any school, and they
Right.
just talk about it from the legal perspective. We have a bullying program here that was here when I first was here, and we're going to revamp it, and it's called STOP, which is Stop Treating Other People, and then we talk about it. We talk about it from the law enforcement perspective because schools do a great job of talking about the emotional aspect. What they don't realize is all of the rest of the stuff that happens. We arrest kids for this type of behavior, and we bring them over to our juvenile justice center. That's a terrifying thing. You have to come to court. Your parents have to come to court. There's a whole lot of things you could be ordered to do as a result of it. And so when we're able to get this up and running, we're going to be providing it to the schools, of course, free of charge. It has a program that is for students, a program that's for teachers, and also a program for parents so that parents can see what is going on and try to help their kids before it gets too bad.
The time is 6:53. Any final words before we get to the last portion of the interview? Any final words for people? Is there anything that we should expect, or just watch the social media, and or how can folks get in contact with you, gentlemen?
That's you, gentlemen. Come to the courthouse.
We don't want them to.
Yeah.
In fact,
We're going to be busy fighting crime.
one would not want to be contacted by these
Yes.
gentlemen.
I don't know if they want to make contact with me, but
Excuse me.
I think this is a fantastic collaboration. I'm ecstatic to be here and ready to kick butt.
one of the things I want to bring up is if the citizens are concerned about cost as to our training, for instance. For my training, the only cost to the taxpayers, because it was all grant funded through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children for the seminars that I went to, week-long seminars, the only thing the taxpayers had to pay for was my transportation to and from O'Hare Airport. Other than that, it was all fully picked up by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. When I went the first time for the Protecting Our Children Online course, I met investigators from around the United States, military investigators. We were introduced to some people from Interpol. Then my second training included an entire trial put together, crossing experts, putting on experts. And again, the only expense to the taxpayers was my transportation to and from O'Hare Airport. Otherwise, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children picked up the tab and trained us on how to do these things. And that training is ongoing and will continue to ongo, not just for me, but for our other ASAs who are now in our supervisor. I talked to the head of the High-Tech Crimes Bureau today, who was attending from the Attorney General's office, and he mentioned right away, he said, let's get some training for some of your people. And I said, we're all in. So that's what we're going to do.
All right. Well, I'm very glad to have you guys here. The next Facebook Live is going to be on involuntary mental health committal process, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. That's news hot off the presses. The time is 6:55 p.m. I want to thank Mr. Robert Dore, Chief of the Criminal Division, again, State's Attorney Mosser, Mr. Zeus Flores for this evening's discussion. If anyone is interested, the Kane County State's Attorney's website has more information on various services and programs within Kane County. But I want to say thank you very much to everyone watching. Lots of great people out here watching. So thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate the opportunity to get together and highlight the message of our law enforcement partners once a month here on our show.
Wonderful. And are we doing positive note ending?
Yes, we are. Absolutely. The show ends on a positive note. So what is your message today for Kane County?
Do you guys want to go?
You go first.
So this is my positive note. This would not have happened if we continued the way that law enforcement typically continues, which is we're siloed. For a long time, my job was just prosecution, and that was it. We weren't involved in anything else. The sheriff's office, that was just investigations. And so what we're doing here is something different. It's a collaboration. It is my office plus the sheriff's office. Plus, we work with others. I mean, I cannot express enough to Chief Keegan in the St. Charles Police Department, because what we needed was a cyber lab, and that would have cost a couple $1 million and probably would have taken a long time to build. But for a meeting that I had with the chief where he said, well, we have a lab, why don't you just use our lab? Now, how often does that happen when somebody says, well, I have the resource that you need? Because we're siloed. But Chief Keegan knew that it was for the betterment of this community that we all work together. Sheriff Hain actually has my 2 investigators over there, so he houses them and has been helping with costs with things. Zeus is going to be working out of the St. Charles Police Department, so another place that somebody is giving us this to help because we're not siloed. Kwame Raoul, our Attorney General, works with us often in regards to these cases by providing resources such as Dave Hazlitt, who is their director of their high-tech crimes bureau. I mean, this is a person also can combat Bob in terms of experience, but it's because we all want the same goal, which is to keep our community safe. So my positive note is we are thinking so differently here in Kane County, and we're working together. We're not just working and doing something else. As a result of this, all of our communities within Kane County will be able to access the resources that we have, to go to Zeus if they have a need to get into something or if they have questions, to talk to Bob, to talk to our investigators. So I just can't say how thrilled I am that this initiative is starting here, because we are truly going to make a difference in Kane County.
Wonderful.
I don't know if I could top that. The reality is this topic is a sad, dark topic, right? But on the other side of the token, we get to do great work. We're able to sleep at night when we know that we've helped a victim, when we saved somebody. And so to me, it's just a privilege and an honor to be able to work on such a great team on the same mission.
Wonderful.
Sir? I have to echo that. It's a privilege to be able to work so much more closer with Zeus because his resources and his time was spread out quite a bit when he was working with the Attorney General's office, and he was all over the place. I was lucky enough to be able to work with him for the past 10, 13 years with all the cases that we were doing, but I know he was stretched in a lot of different directions. But to be able to know that he is a resource now for our county, and to work with Andrew Euler and the other investigators who really want to do a good job here with the county, and our unit and our prosecutors that are dedicated to do it too. This is a dream come true. It is a dark topic, and it is a sad reality in our society, but there is a lot of brightness coming from the initiative that we've put together, and what State's Attorney Mosser has put together with the Sheriff's Department. There's going to be some good results from what we're doing, and I'm very happy about that.
Well, we look forward to highlighting the work that the team continues to do. So, on behalf of myself and the listeners of the show, thank you very much for what you guys do, and we are here to applaud your efforts as you continue to do that. Very detailed information, and thank you for the great presentation. Judy, I concur, and I think that's a great way to end the show.
Thank you, Judy.
The time is 7:00 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This episode will remain on our Facebook page and be live, and the audio version will be on our Spotify as well, to which you can subscribe. Thank you to all the participants and everyone watching. You guys have a great evening.
Thank you.
Off.